Hi everyone. Continuing to talk about the city that I loved. It was a love at first sight, Sevilla. In the last episode, I was talking about things that I love about Sevilla. And in this episode, I am continuing to talk about that. But I will also be saying some things in between about Sevilla and maybe some downsides. These are my experiences. And of course, everyone can have their own preferences. I would just like, before I continue, to remind you to please subscribe because it really means a lot to small creators, and you will be regularly updated about expat tips, my point of view regarding life in Spain, but not just Spain. I will be talking about places or comparing places where I lived before and where I live now, for example. So stay tuned. One positive point about Sevilla is that there are a lot of biking lanes. It's a basically biking city, not as much as some, for example, Central European cities, but notably more than majority other places of Spain. In favor of biking also goes the fact that the city is pretty flat. There is also an option to rent bikes. It's called, I will for sure say it wrong, but I think it's Sebisi. It's an app where that you can use to subscribe for bike rental, and then there are many stations around the city where you can rent bikes. Um, if you have once you have a subscription, which is for people who are staying long term, it's really recommended to take 1 year subscription, which is 33.33 euros per year. And for people who are just visiting, you can take 1 day or 1 week subscription, which are also quite cheap. Or like a week subscription is 13.33 euros. The day subscription 2.59 euros. So once you have these subscriptions, first half an hour whenever you rent a bike are completely free. And then if you go over half an hour, you will pay a little bit of extra depending on the subscription and depending on the time. But in general, it's quite affordable. As I said in a previous episode, it's possible to walk around a city center from one corner to the another, but it's very handy to have a bike if you would like to visit many places in 1 day or just go finishing some business from one corner to another. It's very handy to rent a bike. Another thing is that Sevilla is at a pretty good location that you can go visit other places in Spain. Like basically you can explore Andalusia from there and not just Andalusia. First, and one of the closest places is Italica. There you can even go by bike. It's a bit less than an hour biking from the city. And Italica are remainings of the Roman city. It's a very nice archaeological site. Then if you want to go like either by train or by car, you can go, for example, to Cordoba, which is around 45 minutes by train, 1 hour, 40 minutes by car. You can go to Cadiz. From there, you even have access to the Atlantic Ocean. To get to Cadiz is like around 1 hour and a half, 45 minutes, depending if you go by train or by car, depending on the traffic. On the other side, you can go to Malaga, which is around 2.5 hours by car. And also small places around Malaga, they have access to the Mediterranean Sea. Another wonderful town is Ronda, which is around 2 hours driving from Sevilla. And there are white villages of Andalusia that you can also visit. Jerez de la Frontera, which is famous for wines, sherry wines that I mentioned in the previous episode, which is just around 1 hour, 10 minutes driving from Sevilla. It's not even far away from Portugal, for example. A number one thing that is kind of in between, and it really depends on the personal preferences, is that the pace of life is quite slow. It's definitely slower than bigger cities like Madrid and Barcelona. People usually meet, then they sit, they drink slow, they eat slow, they just socialize. This is a relatively common way of spending evenings, even on weekdays. Also, as a consequence of this, sometimes administration can be slow. Who likes this kind of lifestyle, they will really enjoy, but some people, they just don't feel comfortable about it. Another in-between thing is that there are so strong local social networks in the lower proportion of foreign residents. Again, compared to Madrid and Barcelona, there are less foreigners. And as in many parts of Andalusia, in Sevilla también, in Sevilla as well, the social life is often centered around family, long-term friendships, neighborhood communities, and many people just grow up there, they study, and then they continue living in the city, they find a job. And so they have stable social circles formed since their childhood, basically. For, of course, newcomers, this can be a problem because it's maybe a bit slower integration, especially compared to the bigger cities like Madrid or Barcelona, where also there are big expat communities, and you can find friends in these expat circles, but depending on the context, of course, between Spanish people, because people are just used to foreigners, for example, at the workplace, the integration in Sevilla might be a bit slower. As a result of this, also the daily life is a little bit less oriented toward foreigners, again, compared to the big cities. There are not many events in English. English is very little used in communication, for example, and it can be actually quite difficult for foreigners at the beginning. And then speaking about language, the third point is that there is like a higher need or necessity to learn some Spanish from the beginning. And then on the top of that, there is a dialect in Sevilla, this Andalusian dialect, or actually even dialect that is a bit specific for this part of Andalusia. And this can be a bit difficult for newcomers. So once you learn some Spanish, you can still have problems to understand local people because Andalusian dialect is a little bit peculiar. People speak very fast and they tend to pronounce some sounds a bit differently. It gets some time to adjust. Some downsides. First thing, the summer heat. I think even a person who was born in Sevilla will tell you that, of course, summer heat is something kind of unbearable because many people, even locals, usually they have some family in the countryside or they have holidays and then they go for holidays like to the coast. So people just leave Sevilla in August, whoever has an option, of course. And the temperatures in summer can easily go above 40 degrees. Due to that, it's in the hottest months, it's difficult to spend time outside in the middle of the day or in the afternoons, and people only go out actually in the evenings. And this is why the daily rhythm is also a little bit shifted to evening hours and later periods of the day. And people, for that reason, go out and have dinners quite late in Sevilla, especially in summer. Dinners never, in Andalusia in general, they never start before 9. And in summers, it's actually very rare that they even start before 10. Some families even have dinners at 11 p.m. The positive side of it is that the winters are quite mild. Temperatures during the day are usually 15, 16, 17 degrees. It's very pleasant to be outside. It's usually very sunny. The nights can get a bit cold, like 5, 6, 7 degrees. And this can be a bit difficult because the buildings are just not made to keep the heat, but quite the opposite. There is no really a heating system because most of the time you don't need it. In the evenings, in the houses, it can get a bit fresh, even during the day actually. And of course, for people who like their home environment warm, like myself included, this can be a bit tough, especially in the evenings. But of course, nowadays, most houses get even again warm in the evenings using, for example, aircon or small small heaters that work on electricity as well. In addition to that, there are a few small urban issues, and I think this is something that I am again like kind of repeating myself when I'm speaking about Spain, places in Spain, like also in Madrid. Some parts of the city could be cleaner. I'm especially referring to the dog owners who are not collecting after their pets. And this is even quite common in the city center. So you really have to watch where you walk. Some parts of the city, including Isla de la Cartuja, look a bit deserted. I actually lived in the residence house there, and it's this area of the city was built for Expo 1992. The topic of this Expo was a commemoration of 500 years of Christopher Columbus' first voyage to the Americas in 1492. And after the exposition, this area of the city became important technology and cultural district. It also has Isla Mágica amusement park, Cartuja Science and Technology Park, museums, and also in some universities, you can still find here and there some deserted mascotas from the expo left just to left to themselves, and it looks a bit abandoned. Also, it's not really safe to walk there at night because it's not really a residential area. It was, as I said, I was living in a residence there, and when I was going out in the evenings, all my colleagues who are more locals, they always advise me to take a taxi to go back because they consider it quite dangerous. They even were recommending me not taking a bike, but to go back to the residence. But this is unrelated to the center itself, which is really beautiful, and most people are concentrated there. So to conclude, of course, no place is perfect. Sevilla is not an exception. But despite these downsides, my experience of living in Sevilla was very positive. I love the city and I always go back to this city whenever I have a chance. Beautiful the most beautiful things are the historic city center, walks around this center, along the river, the great social, lively atmosphere, great food and lifestyle that encourages people to spend time outside and enjoy every day of their life. If you are thinking about the city, I definitely recommend you to give it a chance for at least do, of course, do some trip and see what you think about the city by yourself. And to conclude, thank you for watching this video. I have also other social networks. Check them out. Please don't forget to subscribe and also like, comment. If you have a question, if you would like to share your experience, if you would like to correct something, say something that is maybe not in line with what I said, just feel free to do so. I am happy to read your comments. I'm also happy to learn something from you. So write it down. That was it for this episode. Thank you for watching and see you soon again. Bye.